This is your second stimulus check update and your second stimulus package for Monday, August 10th. In today's video, we're going to go over all the things that we've heard over this weekend. We're going to talk about exactly where we stand with the Republicans and Democrats in their current negotiations for the next stimulus package. And on top of that, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some in-depth news on when we should expect the next stimulus checks and where we are on that position. I know over this past weekend, we've been seeing a lot of negotiations and a lot of things aside from the next stimulus check, and a lot of people are just curious on when this may actually happen. So don't forget to stick through this whole video because I'll be sharing towards the very end of the video just where we are on the current situation on the second stimulus check. But let's just do the recap so everything makes a little bit more sense and then get to that point. It's a little bit interesting to see some of the news that I found, so hopefully this is going to give you guys some good information on what you guys should know coming up for the next stimulus package. All right, so pretty much everyone has heard that President Trump actually went ahead and signed 3 memorandums and 1 executive order. I don't want people to confuse this. It wasn't 4 executive orders. He actually needs to work on 3 of the packages that he actually talked about, and there is a good chance that some of that actually may not go through. So I also mentioned in yesterday's video that a lot of this is political theater. Election year is coming up, and for the presidential votes, his time in office is only 3 more months, surprisingly. So, time is flying right now. And while a lot of our candidates understand that, look, he may not be in office in the next few months, he needs to do everything he can in order to look the best to the public, in order to get the votes up, and in order to make it seem like he's doing everything he possibly can in order to be helping out the people. But if we look at the fine print and we realize some of the things he's passed, we realize it's not as good as what we've seen with the CARES Act, and he may not actually have the authority to do as much as President Trump is saying he wanted to do. So out of all the things he's mentioned yesterday, the biggest thing I would take home is the student loan assistance. If you are paying student loans or you have a child still paying student loans, they will get a deferment on that till the end of the year. That is an official executive order, and there is still no interest on that plan. So student loans, I would say that's stamped, that's good to go. So with examples like the unemployment boost, I would say that's still kind of in the air right now. The eviction moratoriums, it's still not as strong as the one that we've seen in the CARES Act. Fine print on this is saying that, look, if you have the disease, if you are sick, then we will do what we can to assist you in not getting kicked out. But it's not the same as protecting people and making it a legal law so people actually don't get kicked out of their areas of residence. So keep in mind, there are a lot of differences. I don't want people to rely on the headlines that they see with the news when in reality, they may not actually have that much weight to them. Now, aside from that, I do want to talk about current standings with Republicans and Democrats. I feel like as time goes on, debate is getting more heated than ever. Although Democrats and Republicans have always had their heads butting. I mean, this is the way our political system works. It seems like over this past weekend, there have been a lot of debates, but the good news is they're still open to negotiations. They're still open to coming to the table, even if both parties aren't there all the time. They are still open to working out negotiations with the Democrats' version of the HEROES Act and the Republicans' version of the HEALS Act. Where we are right now with the current standing is that the HEROES Act is still at $3 trillion, while the HEALS Act is at $1 trillion. We have a very big difference in between the two, and it looks like Democrats are willing to come down in price to that $2 trillion mark. And what happens after that is they expect Republicans to really meet them, because $3 trillion, $1 trillion, $2 trillion needs to be that middle mark. Both sides need to budge. So it's not just Republicans, though. If we talk about things like the unemployment boost, Democrats still want that full $600 amount that they're actually not seeing right now. So Republicans have boosted it up to $400. Technically, they're only supplying $300 a month because the state is supposed to cover that extra $100. But if we take a stand back and we look at the current situation, we realize, look, Republicans aren't budging in some aspects of their negotiation, and Democrats aren't really budging either. It's not the way negotiations should be working. It's not the way negotiations should be the most effective. Both of them need to realize, like, look, we need to both move on different areas in order for us to come to an agreement. If they're so far apart on different areas of the bill, I would say just come to an average, just come to the middle. If you guys want something to get passed, and at the end of the day, you want people to get money, you both are going to have to move on certain sides. You can't not just budge. At the end of the day, this is hurting everyone, not just you. If the whole country goes down, if the people can't get money, and if we cannot recover because of their stubbornness on what they actually want, at the end of the day, nothing's going to get done. At the current moment, the largest area of conflict for both sides is not going to be stimulus checks, unemployment boost benefits. Surprisingly enough, the biggest area of concern right now is actually going to be funding towards state and local governments. This is really where the biggest obstacle is. And if we're driving on a road, this is not just a pothole. This is pretty much like a straight up wall in the middle of the road. And no one can really just drive by this right now. Democrats argue that the states need extra funding for their local government because employees of the government are going to get furloughed, they're going to get fired, and this is thus going to hurt our overall economy even more. But at the same time, Republicans understand that, look, many states out here already were doing a poor job in managing their finances. Using this very scarce stimulus package that may have some very everlasting effects on our future generation with increased amounts of inflation and debt, this may not be fully worth it to be bailing out the states that did not do a good job previous to the pandemic. This is a big area of concern right now, and they still cannot find common ground. Let me know where you believe is the best common ground on something like this. Do you think Republicans should budge? Do you think Democrats are right? Or do you think both of them are wrong and they should just come to a middle agreement? Let me know what you guys think of that down below. Now, I know most of you guys are curious on where we are with the second stimulus check because it is just so hard trying to find accurate news on this because everyone's talking about all these additional benefits. I think everything has its importance in the matter at hand. I think everything has a certain level of validity, but if we're talking about current help that we can supply to the people, I personally believe that stimulus checks is one of the best ways to go. I mentioned this in yesterday's video that instead of coming out with 3 different memorandums or trying to work out different executive orders, why not just focus on getting stimulus checks out to the people at an increased amount? $1,500 or $2,000 per individual. This will cover the eviction. This will cover people's rent. This will give them that unemployment boost, whether or not they qualify for it. This is going to give the additional stimulus to the people that people will actually need. I would say with the stimulus checks, I found 3 pretty good points that I want to share with you guys. One of them is that everyone is still open for people getting additional stimulus checks. We haven't seen any backlash. We haven't seen anyone talk negative about it. Now, this may be because it is an election year coming up and most of them want to get back in office. There is probably a very, very low likelihood that any of them will go back into office. Seeing all the comments of the people like, wow, my viewers are pretty upset at leaders in the government, and I am not surprised. I'm actually pretty on board with a lot of the hate. Now, I'm not someone who's trying to advocate for hate. I'm not saying that people should be losing their jobs and their families, but I feel like when you're having an executive position at that level, you have a firm responsibility to the people, and they're just simply not meeting that expectation. And that's why people are mad. That's why viewers are mad. That's why my subscribers are upset. It's because they have this expectation of helping people. And then we hear in the news like, look, they can't come to an agreement. They're going on recess. They're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. And fun fact, if you guys didn't know, a good example, like Steve Mnuchin, do you guys understand how much of a net worth he has? Steve Mnuchin has a net worth of $300 million. It's not just a small amount. So when you try to understand that, look, maybe some of our political leaders don't care, it's because they simply just don't care. They don't care because this does not impact them at all. And the only reason they would show that they care is because they want to get voted back into office in order to get more power, more influence, more money overall for their next generation of children. So we realize, look, most of these people making these decisions, it's not like they're coming from a family that's struggling. It's not like they have to worry about paying their bills or they have to worry about getting kicked out of their homes. Most of our government leaders, they're in a situation where they're pretty well off right now. They're sitting with huge amounts of money. If Steve Mnuchin has $300 million and that's the public net worth that is shared, imagine how much other executives and other leaders actually have in their back pocket or stored away on Nassau, Bahamas in some offshore bank. We really don't know the full extent of this picture. And to my knowledge as a YouTuber, to what I'm seeing after doing hours and hours of research every single day, trying to figure out what the situation is and why this is taking so long, I just believe that they have no priority over this. I believe that they just simply do not actually care about the people. They may say they do, and some of them may actually do, but the most important figures right now are just not showing this through their actions, regardless of what they say. I'm really sorry that sometimes I go on these tangents. I don't mean to like let loose like this, and I try to stay on my script or try to give you guys the straight facts that you guys can go home with, but sometimes it just really does piss me off, and sometimes, I don't know. It's just annoying. So I'm going to play this clip real quick by Steve Mnuchin. Here it is.
I can have them out immediately. So if I could get that passed tomorrow, I could start printing them the following week. We did it the first time. I can get out 50 million payments really quickly, a lot of it into people's direct accounts. That's going to have an enormous impact on the American economy, hardworking Americans. So I want to get that done quickly.
The good news is that if Republicans and Democrats were able to come to that common consensus, Steve Mnuchin is saying that they're able to print out 50 million stimulus checks to the people by the end of next week. I feel like something like this would be amazing if it did actually go through, but do you guys actually believe him? Do you think this is actually going to happen? I really hope so. I really hope this actually gets passed, but at the same time, instead of giving people false promises or giving people clickbait, oh, the next stimulus check is coming out today. Let's talk about the realistic idea of when realistically we should see this. So in my personal opinion, what I actually foresee in the future is that, look, most of the people in Senate, most of our leaders working are actually gone on recess. They're back on their vacation, wherever they are, Bahamas, Alaska. I don't know what they do. I don't know what super rich people be doing on their vacations, but whatever they're doing, most of them are back on recess. Now, I would say, even though that sounds pretty upsetting, the good news out of that as well is that, look, if they get called back into office, they're allowed to come back at a very short notice of time. And look, they already got money. They have no reason to fly the fastest jet in the world and get back to DC and sign off on a new proposal. In my opinion, what I foresee happening is that they'll be on their recess until the end of August. When they return back in September, I feel like during the second to third week of September, if they're able to come to a negotiation after their recess, we should expect to see solidified stimulus checks by then. But guys, we're in the beginning of August. Summer is already going to a close, and the more time this takes, the more dangerous it becomes for many of the people. So if you did enjoy this video at all, don't forget to smash the like button down below. That really does support this channel. It really helps my videos get pushed out to other people. Like always, thank you guys so much for tuning by another video. Let's have a great productive week, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.